whom the bell tolls. Hello, Fred.
For thee.
Thank you. All right, 15 seconds. Hello, welcome to the Village of Rybrook Planning Board. Can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, my name is Rob Goodman. I'm Chair of the Planning Board. Also in attendance tonight as board members is Scott Mendelson, Jeffrey Richmond, and Amy Schoen. We are a short board tonight. We have a quorum, but we're a short board, only 4 of us, and I'll explain the significance of that a bit later. Also in attendance tonight are our village attorneys, Jennifer Gray and her colleague Robert Zitt, and our superintendent of public works, Michael Nowak, our village planning consultant from Hardesty and Hart, Sarah Brown. Always in spirit, Terry Orlando, who is our board secretary, who does all of our minutes and everything else behind the scenes. And last but not least, our Board of Trustees liaison, David Heiser, who's in attendance tonight. Our board rules can be found on our website. It is encouraged to review our website. The village's website is a pretty good one. It contains our agenda for tonight, all the documents relating to this meeting, as well as a streaming video of past meetings and documents relating to past meetings. I encourage all professionals to review our board rules, which govern certain things that may be important to you, such as notices and timing of filings and things of that sort. Our first agenda item is the review of the minutes of April 13th. And I do think we have a quorum to review that because Jeff indicated he actually was there at that meeting. He was not absent, he was there. Does anyone have any comments regarding the April meeting? Okay, can I have a motion and a second to adopt the minutes?
Moved.
Approve the minutes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you.
No opposed. Okay, our first matter tonight is 15 Paddock Road. Hi, how are you?
Good, yourself?
Well, before we start, this is scheduled for a public hearing, so can I have a motion and a second to open the public hearing?
Moved.
Second. Mr. Mendelson,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Ms. Schoen,
Yes.
Chairman Goodman.
Yes.
Thank-
Okay, sir.
Good evening. My name is Joe Tremelli. I'm a principal with Keller Sessions Consulting. We're the site engineers representing the Santarellis. No? We're here before you tonight for a public hearing for site plan approval for a regrading and landscaping of the rear yard and a small patio addition at the rear of the house. The property itself is a little over a half acre in size, currently developed with a single-family home and associated amenities, driveways, deck, small walkways and whatnot. What we're simply proposing to do is regrade the rear yard to make it more usable. Right now, as you can see from the topography, the property slopes gradually from south to north across the site, the north being the left side of the screen. The northeast corner of the property, for the most part, and extending in that lower lying area behind the house, tends to remain pretty wet after a storm. The soils aren't that great, and the surrounding properties are all slightly higher than us in elevation, so everything tends to drain to that rear corner. So what we want to do is simply strip the topsoil, the upper maybe 6 inches of topsoil from the site, stockpile that for reuse later, install an underdrain system in the rear yard, perforated pipe network that would then discharge to a detention tank that would have controlled outlets for release over time into the village storm system. The village's storm line actually runs along the northern property, connecting, is it Orchard to the rear and Paddock Road. And you'll see on the proposed plan, so that the proposed grading will mimic the existing conditions, albeit it will be about a foot higher when all's said and done. But you can see on the left side of the rear yard, there's a series of tanks, concrete tanks, that would temporarily detain the stormwater. And then it would meter it out at a controlled rate into this town storm line that runs parallel to the northern property line. In addition to that, you can see on this plan behind the house, we have a small patio. It's, the patio itself is about 400 square feet, but important to note that in the existing conditions, there is an existing walkway, some of which will be removed to make way for that patio, so that the net increase is about 336 square feet. An increase in impervious surface. The runoff from that patio would also be collected and detained in that storm system. And then finally, just to provide some privacy and some screening along the rear property line, the owner had previously tried to plant a row of arborvitae, but because of the wet conditions, I think the feet just, they were always wet. So we want to just raise that up a little bit along the property line, maybe a 1 to 2 foot high berm, and then plant arborvitae at 6 to 8 feet at time of planting. And as I'm sure you know, they grow pretty quick. So
Yeah.
I think that'll be a good starting height. And that's really the application. We've received memos from your planning consultant and have no further comment at this time. And we've reviewed the engineering with Mike, and I believe we're in agreement as far as the stormwater management and the site improvements themselves. So
Right.
any questions from you, I'd be happy to answer.
Now, the grading, it's how much of a regrading are you doing? How much of a slope was
So
there before?
It's a gradual slope from right to left across the rear of the property. There's somewhat of a plateau on the far right side, the south side of the property, and then there's a gradual drop in grade from right to left across the rear of the property. We are proposing to strip the topsoil
Right.
about 6 inches, bring in about 1 foot of bank run material, a nice well-drained soil, and then put the topsoil back. So at the end of the day, the total increase would be about 1 foot from what you see today.
Right, and and you think that'll address the issue with the water sort of settling in
Yeah, I
one
think,
particular
as I
area?
said, that the underlying soils are just poor. We did some deep tests out there just to see what was going on. The groundwater level's somewhat high, which is why we're using concrete tanks. We can't infiltrate, dry wells won't work in that portion of the property. They may on the higher elevations, but that doesn't help us with what we're trying to do here. So we have a solid series of tanks to collect and detain that water, and then slowly release it back into the town system, village's system.
Right. Sarah, are there any planning issues relating to this application?
No, all of our previous comments have been addressed.
Okay, so it's sufficient screening.
Yes, the arborvitae will provide sufficient.
And Mike, as far as stormwater management is concerned, you're satisfied that their proposal will address the drainage issues that they have?
Well, remember that this is to handle the, not necessarily runoff, but soil conditions that are there now. So they're
Right.
trying to mitigate what's happening in there due to the runoff from the soil. Only question I have for Mr. Chermelli is I would like for him to just explain the calculations and the outflow
Sure.
into the village's system. Are you able to talk about that just a little bit?
So we did a hydraulic model of the current conditions, compared that to proposed. And as Mike just mentioned, aside from the patio, the land cover remains essentially the same, right? We're lawn today, we're going to be lawn after the fact. We did assume some increased level of percolation due to the improved soil conditions. So using that and the added patio area, we have a slight net increase in runoff from the site. Collecting that, it'll be temporarily detained in a tank. That tank has forget the exact details of it, but there's a small orifice, an outlet pipe, and that will then allow the stormwater to return into the village's system, but at a much slower rate over a longer period of time, so that we're not impacting the system. That existing storm line that runs along the property line, there's a manhole probably right, I would say it's in the middle, let me see if I can So if you can see that connection there to the left, that circle with the D in it, that is the village's storm manhole that sits on that existing line that we're connecting to. That manhole actually has an open grate, so that stormwater runoff is getting into that manhole today. We're simply trying to collect it before it gets there and hold it back for a period of time so that we're not impacting the village's system.
Are the tanks you refer to, those are Caltech units?
They're not, those are infiltrators, but the soil conditions here don't, they're not suitable for infiltration, so these are actually precast tanks.
Okay,
just empty
they're above
vaults.
ground?
They're buried. You
Buried,
won't
of
know
course,
they're there.
sure.
Right, and then that single pipe coming out is set at a diameter to restrict the flows. And that's all been modeled to
What
demonstrate.
are those tanks made of? What's the material of the tanks?
They're concrete. They're 2 foot high, and I think they're about 5 by 7, 2 foot high, and they're all interconnected, so you have one acting as one unit.
Okay.
And then we don't have to worry about them floating either if they're empty. You know, when they're empty in between storms with the higher groundwater elevation, you don't want to run the risk of buoyancy and something
Blowing up,
coming
right.
out of the ground.
Board members, are there any questions for the applicant?
The one question I have is, I know we're raising up on that, what you're calling the right-hand side of this map, the lots next door and behind, because now we're gonna be up and possibly they're not going to be draining onto you. Is this going to affect them at all?
So the property to the far right, to the south, we're not doing any regrading in that area at all. So the runoff that comes from that property today will continue to do so. The property to our north, we are roughly at the same elevation today. And we've graded it such that we'll meet the existing grades of our property before it gets to the fence line. So we're not going to impact them as well. And the property to the rear, we are creating that earth berm along the rear property line, but as you approach the low point of our property, where the corner is, we've massaged the grades so that it matches existing grade again. So if in fact any runoff from that house, I believe they have a couple of roof leaders that might discharge at grade, that will still be permitted to run towards that property line and ultimately into the village's storm manhole. So we won't be impacting any of the neighbors.
Are there any members of the public who would like to speak to this application? Okay. We have any further questions? No? We have a resolution?
Yes.
Okay. Can we go summarize it, or?
We have to close the public?
Oh, yes, we do, yeah. Can we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Mendelson?
Yes.
Mr. Richmond?
Yes.
Ms. Schoen?
Yes.
Chairman Goodman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We're ready.
Whereas Joseph Chermelli, LPE, on behalf of property owner Frank Santarelli, hereinafter the applicant, submitted application for approval of a site plan for a proposed new rear patio, rear yard regrading, drainage installation, and landscaping for the property located at 15 Paddock Road, identified as section, block, and lot 135.26, 153 on the Town of Rye tax map in an R15 zoning district, hereinafter the property. And whereas the planning board is the approval authority for this application pursuant to section 209-1A2A and section 209-1.B9 of the village code. And whereas the planning board reviewed the following maps, the following plans and application materials.
You can skip.
Plow through them. Whereas the application is a type 2 action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, thereby requiring no further environmental review. Whereas a duly advertised public hearing was open on June 8th, 2023, at which time all those wishing to be heard on the application were given such opportunity, and the public hearing was closed on June 8th, 2023. And whereas the planning board, village planning consultant, and village staff have reviewed all application materials and made recommendations therein. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Rye Brook Planning Board hereby approves the site plan for the installation of a proposed new rear patio, rear yard grading, drainage installation, and landscaping for the property located at 15 Paddock Road upon the following conditions. One, the applicant shall submit a construction management plan to the satisfaction of the village building inspector and superintendent of public works / village engineer. Be it further resolved that no permits shall be issued until the applicant has paid to the village all applicable fees and professional review fees incurred in connection with review of this application. Be it further resolved that all construction shall be performed in accordance with all approved plans and land use approvals, any approved amendments thereto, and field changes authorized and approved by the building inspector, superintendent of public works, village engineer, or their designee in writing.
That's fine. Unless there are any modifications to be made, can I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution of approval?
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Mendelson,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Michonne,
Yes.
Chairman Goodman.
Yes. Congratulations, good
Thank you
luck.
very much. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you. Our next matter is 1 Hunter Drive.
Is that a sculpture on Hunter Drive?
Looks sort of cool. Looks like multiple cameras on that.
Hmm?
Looks like a multiple cameras.
How do we make it show up? Oh, yeah, that's not a question. I got the laptop. Consultant. Okay, there we go. I'll just go with the board, so we don't waste any more time.
You're thinking too hard. Just go with it.
Technology's great when it works.
That's too bad.
Going old school.
It's okay.
Sometimes it's better, actually.
Yeah, bring it up. There we go.
You want the microphone? Get the microphone and just talk here facing it.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, hi.
All right.
You're online
Good
now.
day. Good evening, everyone. I'm Adam Arias. I'm with working with Anam and Kirby. We're the civil engineers on the project, and we're on here behalf with where's Jacob? Jacob over here. He's the homeowner of One Hunter Drive. So, sorry, I'm not used to this.
Speak up.
All right. So, our development is basically we're proposing a new swimming pool in the backyard. It's 760 square feet. We're also going to be doing a new patio in this area, and we're going to be modifying the existing deck that's there. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You keep talking.
Want me to remove
You
this?
entertain.
All right. Okay. So, yeah. Do you hear me better? Whoa.
Much.
Oh.
Hello?
That's okay.
Better.
Speak
We're
up.
good?
Look,
Okay.
That's good.
So like I was saying, we have a swimming pool in the back. We have the wood patio in the, over here as well. And then we have a modified existing deck that's there. All right, perfect. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Okay. So, in order to deal with the drainage on this site, we have designed our drainage system in accordance with the Rybrook Village Code with the total volume storage stormwater management system. It's consisting of 19 Caltex that you'll see to the bottom of, to the south side of the swimming pool, this area over here. These are 330 XL units, which are 2.5 feet in height, that collect all the proposed and existing impervious areas on the current site. So the system captures the runoff of all the impervious surfaces and contains within the site up to the 25-year storm for total volume storage purposes. But for runoff and discharge, it goes up to and withholds all of that amount until the 100-year storm. We have addressed the comments that you have mentioned last month in the last meeting. We have moved the pool equipment to the side of the house. So before, previously, it was in the rear around this area. But now we moved it to the side of the house so that it's nearby the other AC units that are there and mechanical equipment. But the main concern that you had last time was for screening. We've basically put a fence around it, and we also are going to be putting a plant screening all around the property line. And there is already existing plant from the vegetation from the neighbors as well. We also would like to mention that on the neighbor's side, they have the pool also next to us, and their building is actually 80 feet away from our building. So just keep those things. It's not like the building is right next to our property line. We have also noted on the plans for a variable speed pump, which is in this location right here. And so we actually we're in touch with the contractor, the pool contractor. He actually stated that the variable speed pumps are actually standard now for New York State, so it's required either way. And regarding, we had mentioned that regarding there was concern with the head of the pump as well. We wanted to let you know that we also discussed that with the contractor. He said that the pump that they're going to be installing deals with up to 100 feet in head. So even if we move this a little bit further away from the pool, it's only about 50 feet of length, and the head is still going to be about 25 feet of head. So it's going to be more than capable to handle that. We also had mentioned that we have also put the cut and fill analysis onto the plan as well. So here we have a net cut of 54 cubic yards. So we're actually taking out soil. We're not actually putting in any fill or anything. The level spreader was also a concern that it might be too close to the property line. We have also moved that back to the 10 feet that was suggested and is actually required. So we pushed it back a little, but it doesn't affect our drainage system at all. We also kept it separate from a tree that's existing over here in this area. And so we made sure that we're also away from the property line, but also away from the tree there. There's also the area of steep slopes has been added. So this boundary that you'll see in green is the area of the steep slopes. But I'd just like to note that we are in a moderate steep slope range. So we have 15% slopes in that area. But in actuality, we have a range of 10% to 18%. So we're still in the moderate, but it's much less than the 7,000 that you see in this area, but just as a note. Notices have been sent to the neighbors and a sign has been placed and no concerns arose from those that were notified. And we would like to note that we're willing to work with the village to get an approval tonight if we've been in constant communication already with the town. And we have been basically bringing a plan to you that meets all of the code as well. So there's nothing here that is out of the code. It's all, like I said, with the drainage system and all aspects of our development. Yeah, and thank you.
Okay. Sarah, are there any, I think there's been an effort to address some of your concerns, if not all of your concerns.
Yes.
Anything outstanding?
There's a few things outstanding. A replacement tree is required because there is a 15-inch diameter tree being taken out. And we had asked them to revise the plan to show the location, size, and species of the proposed replacement tree. They haven't done that. And to add on to that a little bit, there was supposed to be more in that comment, and I'm not sure what happened to it. The fir trees that are proposed around the perimeter of the property are also not a native species. They're a Korean fir species, so we would like to see them swapped out for a native evergreen fir species. And we're going to need them to be planted probably 8 to 10 feet on center, so that when they grow, when they get bigger, they don't get into each other. Yeah. So that will need to be noted on the plan. The other question that I had, it said on a portion of the plan that it was proposed to have a 6-foot high stockade fence around the property. But then there's also a detail for a chain link fence, and I wasn't sure. It said it was going to meet up with the existing chain link fence, so I wasn't sure if there's also a portion that's going to be chain link proposed. I was a little confused on the fencing.
Yeah, can you address that?
Yes, we actually, the owner actually has photos that I could probably show, but basically the tree in question that Sarah was talking about, that it's been dead for a long time, for many, many years. And we have pictures that we can send that to Sarah or to whoever. But also, he has already installed a new tree as well that's very similar to that same tree. And we have pictures of that and where it's located, and we can actually definitely put that on the plan, and that, I hope that would count as a replacement tree as well. So,
What about
That-
the fence?
excuse me?
What about the fence, the stockade?
The
and
fence, yes, I was on my way. So the fence, so yes, we do have a portion of the area that in this north side that is showing basically where the stockade fence meets the chain link fence, but on the south side we have a chain link fence over here. This whole south side is going to be chain link, and then on the back side is going to be stockade, go back to stockade. So I think that was mentioned there, but maybe it was just missed. So the stockade, the chain link is going to be at the southern side.
Now, is there going to be screening in front of the chain link fence? How's that?
Yes, the trees, correct. Yes, there's screening already, like Sarah had mentioned with the arborvitae, and yeah, we will look at the native species, and I guess the owner would like to say something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's clear or not, just to explain.
Yeah, come on up here. Come up to the podium. Okay. Yeah, introduce yourself, please.
How you doing? I'm Jacob Gabriel. I'm the owner for 100 Drive. Is it clear? Okay. So right now, existing on this side, from this side all the way to this end, there is an existing.
Over there and
It's probably easier.
it's hard to see the white cursor.
So right now, along this line of the property, there is a chain link fence from here to this area, almost up to this area. And then there's a stockade fence existing. Those are all existing because this neighbor has a pool, and this neighbor, there's a pool. There's a stockade fence going around from here roughly up to this point. What we're going to add is chain link fence from this point to meet with the existing stockade fence, and we're going to screen with all privacy trees. We have no problem with the species. This was just suggested by the landscape designers, and here there's going to be 2 stockade fence with gates to enter the backyard. So we're basically adding fence from this point to meet the fence right here. All those fence, they already exist in this area. And this is a stockade fence that we're adding with gates.
Are the trees on the interior of the fence or the exterior?
Which part of the fence?
I don't know. All of it? Or the new planting with the chain link, the new chain link that you're going to put on that eastern side and I guess continuing on to the southern side? Sorry. The new chain link that you're going to put on the eastern side and then continuing around to the southern side, are the trees that you're planting on the interior of that fence or the exterior?
From our perspective, as long as we meet the line, I think we have to be 6 to 8 feet from the street, and it really doesn't matter. I don't know the code. It's basically depending on the code, but we have no issues whether inside the chain link, the fence, or outside.
We pretty much would have to obviously set it inside our property, so it would be behind the fence if our fence is right up against the property line. But as he mentions,
I think the issue is that if the fence, the ideal would have, from the neighbor's standpoint, to have plantings outside of the fence.
Yeah, I'm
So
worried
that
about.
the fence is not right on the property line, but the fence is a couple of feet back, and then you would plant in front of the fence so that ultimately what the neighbor is going to see is they're not going to see a fence. All they're going to see are trees, arborvitae, whatever else is planted there.
You
I
could.
think that's the concern.
That's right, and it's because we've got a Franken fence. I don't think the neighbors should bear the burden of that.
So on this side here, and I have some more landscaping projection and pictures. On this side where we're adding fence, there's going to be, it's 2-tiered trees on the outside to cover, and then trees lower from our side to make it, to beautify the fence. On this area, this is an existing fence that we have to, we have no choice but to plant in front of it on our yard.
Right,
Because
that's an existing fence.
that's an existing fence. From this all around, the planting has to be on our yard, because then we will be planting on the neighbor's
Right.
yard.
The fence that's around that's on your property, or is that on your neighbor's property?
It's right on the property line.
Right on the property line. Okay.
This is all on the property line. This showing the property line and the fence.
Do you know who placed the fence originally? Is it the neighbor's fence or is it your fence?
I think it's his fence, but however it eventuated, it was right on the property line that they put the fence, so they can't plant in front of it. But it's an existing fence.
I think that's probably the neighbor placed it when they had to put a pool, because there's pools on these. Here there's a pool and here there's a pool, so probably they had to put a fence in order to meet the codes whenever they placed the pool.
Right.
I would assume that.
Do we have any photos?
of the existing fence or whatever the area we have there.
I just want to mention that the building inspector will have to weigh in on this, but as far as using a neighbor's fence for your pool enclosure, I don't know that the building inspector will allow that. That'll be up to the building inspector's determination. But it's possible that you may have to install another fence to enclose your pool and not rely on a neighbor's fence for the pool enclosure.
Is that something we should maybe get determined before we, complete the application? What the building inspectors, because then the considerations are a bit different. If they have to put in another fence, then we have to deal with how that fence is gonna.
I suppose the chain link that you're installing up to the stockade would then just continue.
We have no
Right up
problem.
against.
It's a 6-foot fence there. We have no problem
Yeah.
adding a chain link fence all around the
I think
property.
question is whether they have to do that, and,
Well, there's options here. Either they do a fence around the entire property, or they could do a fence around the pool. So there's a few different options here of what they could do. If they're gonna have to add a independent fence, then clearly it's gonna have to move back 5-10 feet, so it's gonna move inward. But that's up to the building inspector. That's his jurisdiction.
We have no problem adding a fence around the property. That we have no problem.
Correct, but based on his determination, it may have to be a solely independent fence, not connected with the existing fence that's there. Because if you don't have ownership of that fence on the property, then if the neighbor decides to remove it, now you're in violation of the state code, not having a fence around your pool. So that needs to be clarified with
Yeah,
building
that's
inspector.
not a problem. We have no problem in installing a chain link fence all around the property. Again, the existing properties we're talking about, there's pools there as well, in there, so, I assume the fence will be there for a long time unless the pool is dumped or closed.
it may be worth clarifying. I guess you can work, through Michael's office in getting some clarification as to whether or not you have an obligation to put an additional fence around the pool area. That's what we're sort of unclear
In
about.
addition to the perimeter
In
of the
addition to what
property,
already
that-
exists.
That there may be a requirement to fence the pool.
Yeah.
The fence the pool itself, I thought we clarified that we don't, if we have a fence all around the property, you don't need to fence the pool. And the comment is that it might not suffice to link to the existing fence, and we have no problem in putting a fence all around our property. That we have no issue in not relying on the neighbor's fence and put our own chain link fence from this corner. We have no issue adding a fence from this point, going around chain link all the way here, put our own fence and then screen it with privacy tree, and then put a stockade
Stockade fence.
here, a fence here with
the
gates.
gate.
We have no problem with that.
Okay.
That is not a problem, if that suffice.
I think that's something to, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that.
Yeah, we have no
take-
issue with
yeah,
that.
just take an independent tact and just do it and not have to, you
Yeah,
don't have to be
and-
concerned about what ifs and just, work with our consultants just to get it on the plans, that it meets sort of their requirements. I think everything else is pretty, I wouldn't say minor, but addressable. Oh, sorry about that. That everything else can be sort of addressed on the plans, and just make sure that, because generally, I think our custom and practice is that we really try to button up these applications. We really don't like approving with conditions on the application. It's just a bad idea all around. So I would say that we put this on for next month. Oh, actually, hold on. Is there anyone,
Well, yeah, before, Mr. Chairman, before we do that, if we could retroactively open up the public hearing
Yeah,
to this
we
application.
haven't done that yet?
Nope.
All right,
It's okay to do it now, though.
okay. Then let's have a motion and a second. Go ahead.
Mr. Mendelson?
Yes.
Mr. Richmond?
Yes.
Ms. Schoen?
Yes.
Chairman Goodman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway, before I do anything, are there any questions from the board relating to this application? Anything additional that we should address?
So even if we're okay with putting a fence all around the property, is there any issue with that?
We're gonna find out. We're gonna ask members of the public whether
Oh.
there's any issue with that.
Oh,
I mean, I don't think we have a problem
Okay.
with that. Are there any members of the public that want? Yeah, come on up.
Let her talk on that, Mike.
State your name and address, if you would.
My name is Paula Sachs. I live at 4 Hunter Drive. Hunter Drive is a very short street on a hill, and even though their number is 1 and I'm 4, I face directly into their backyard and side yard. And I've lived here in my house for 60 years. I'm probably older than everybody added up in this neighborhood. And I have no qualms with the pool or anything, but it's interesting that you were talking about the fence, because that's my issue. The front of my house faces their whole side and back, which is, I would say, almost a half of Hunter Drive. And their house faces the other street, faces Latonia Road. Even though they're number 1 Hunter, the front of their house is on the other street. Like the other house on my side is facing the other street. It's a cross street, Latonia Road. So my issue, and I'm interested to see that you were talking about the same thing, is the fence. I have no qualms with your pool or anything. But when that house was built, it was built by the builder of all those houses, Bernie Newman, and he built that house for himself. He lived there. They had a row of evergreens, tall evergreens across on Hunter Drive, and it was set back about maybe 15 feet from the road. And so all you saw were evergreen trees, and they grew up to be, like 15 feet tall. And then subsequent owners owned that house. I think you may be the 4th owner. And they didn't really take care of those trees, so they got scraggly and they ended up cutting it down. So now we see this beautiful lawn that you have in the back. But I'm concerned that when you put in the pool, if a chain link fence goes all along Hunter Drive, like a half of Hunter Drive, it's going to look funny if you don't have trees in front of it. I mean, it's going to look ugly, to put it mildly. And maybe if it's set back a little bit off of the street, then you would have green lawn, that you see on the street. Because there's no other chain link fences or any other fences on our street or even in the whole neighborhood. It's right near Pine Ridge Park, right across. So that was my concern, and I see that it was your concern.
Thank
too.
you very much for
Yeah.
the comment, and let's revisit that just for a bit. Do you, on your map, I know would 4 Hunter Drive, would you know which direction it is?
It's across on the other side of the street, directly across from their backyard.
So it would be, this is Hunter Drive, this is Latonia, this is, she's my neighbor right across. There was one house at the corner here, which is 2 Hunter Drive, and
But
this
they-
is 4 Hunter Drive.
And they both face Latonia. And the builder, we knew, we were friends with them, he said when he built the house and faced it in the other direction, not on the street, not on Hunter Drive, he said he wanted to be number 1 and he wanted to be Hunter and not Latonia. So that's why he
It ended up
did
being
that.
like that.
I mean, it was a joke, but so my house is a raised ranch, so it's a little higher, and it's a hill. So I don't want to look into your swimming pool, and you don't want me to see in your swimming pool either. So I was concerned that there wouldn't be, enough privacy there.
I think one of the points that the applicant made, because I think we asked the same question about the chain link fence along that area, that it wouldn't be
Absolutely.
on the property line, that it would actually be set back, and that there would be plantings in
Yes.
front of it, so that ultimately you're
will
gonna,
look
it's
very
gonna,
nice,
right, it's
yeah.
gonna end up, you're not gonna see anything.
Right.
No one's gonna see anything. it's
Because
gonna
my
be all-
vantage point is a little higher,
Right,
'cause
so
I'm
you're
at the top
looking,
of the
you're
hill.
looking a little bit
Yeah.
further down,
So I
yeah. So applicant, is that,
want me to see your bathing suit.
can,
Oh, no.
that's,
I appreciate. If you don't mind, I completely understand, because I wouldn't want anything also, chain link facing my property. Yeah, whatever. If you,
Sure.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, I didn't know. I thought it was his, so I have to reconnect.
As long as you plant privacy trees in front of it, I'm good. No.
I just wanted to do it after, so they don't see, like, just,
And I've done millions of things to put trees, shrubs, everything.
yeah,
Because
that's,
I don't want my neighbors to see me in my bathing suit either.
that's,
I completely understand it, and her point about the trees, when we arrived, there was a bunch of trees that were all old and dead, and they became a hazard, so we had to remove them, because there were dead trees along that property line.
but okay, I mean, let's, it's.
So it seems like the concern is just privacy and the location of the chain link fence, providing a fence that satisfies the pool enclosure, but is also ours,
Right.
and also providing the trees behind the fence so that no one can see the
In front of the fence.
in front,
of the fence.
like street
Right.
side.
As well as,
Correct.
as well as some of the, the issues that I think, Sarah raised. Do you, come on up.
If you don't mind. Yeah. Just gonna share just a quick, just gonna scroll fast, just to have an idea about. So this is what we're talking about here, the stockade fence with the gate and on both sides of the house. Just gonna. So this shows you the trees. So the fence will be behind those trees.
Right.
These are the trees that will be planted, privacy trees. We will start with 6 to 8 feet, and then they will grow quite fast. But
Are they right on the curb?
they're not on the curb. No, they're,
All trees and planting have to be on your property?
Yeah.
Not within the right of way, so whatever that,
6 feet.
and that's how they have it shown. No, your right of way is probably 12 feet, if not more.
Whatever
Whatever
that.
your property line is, you gotta be in from that.
Yeah, whatever that's whatever that back setback were, and this shows you. This is what I wanted to show. This is the inside, and so on the outside there'll be those long trees, the high the privacy trees. The chain link will be in between,
Right.
and on our side we plant shrubs just to cover that from our side. So the street side will not see the
Fence.
fence. Will just see the privacy trees,
That's
and that setback will be whatever that the rules and regs will be. And so, and this is what I exactly what I wanted to show. The same thing. This is the back side. This is with my neighbor, with my neighbors. So just show you, this is where the patio will be. All the other stuff are already existing. This is this deck and this,
Are you able to email these to us?
we can,
That way
yeah.
we have them uploaded
Yeah.
for public to see.
Yeah, so all those, this is how, and this is where, this will be where this is the
Retaining wall.
retaining wall.
Yeah. Oh.
showing from our property on Barbara Elias
Yeah, why don't you come up to the microphone? Okay, they have to get you on the record here. This is streaming video, you know. We're serious about
I'm Barbara Elias, and we own property at 300 Drive, right below the property that Jacobs has. And there were a couple of concerns in terms of the fence continuing from the back of our property, which was hard for me to see, so I would like to see that. And also the retaining wall, where that would be in terms of our property can also see their property from our kitchen. Yeah, not from, we also have a pool below. So there were two concerns. One, the aesthetics of where the tree plantings would be and the fence. And the other is the drain that you make, if there were any possible problems with the water coming down the slope, because it's a big slope on Hunter, and we're the next house down, so any water would be coming down. So I would just like to hear about if there are any possible problems with that. I think I spoke to Mike a little bit about that, so
Yeah.
Maybe you could help me out there.
Yeah, Mike, what about the stormwater? I assume there's stormwater management being done on the property. Do you think it's adequately, the plan is adequate?
So the stormwater management, based on calculations, does handle a 25-year event based on our code. So that was addressed. In leveling off the property, they're going a little more flatter in the backyard, which just by doing that, you're going to slow down any of the sheet flow that would normally be heading from right to left. So it would slow it down and give it a chance to percolate. Okay, so that in itself would be a net reduction in runoff. With regards to the retention system, I do still have a little concern about that level spreader. We had some conversations before the meeting about it, and we could fine tune that, but that level spreader is designed to overflow once you reach a 50-year storm event, because the system's not designed for a 50-year event, it's designed for a 25-year event, so it needs an outlet. So I got a little reservations about the location, but we'll work that out.
Actually overflows for the 100.
The 100?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we just need to tweak that, but that we could work out amongst ourselves. I don't think that's a problem with regards to that. But overall, they do satisfy the village code on drainage.
So there wouldn't be any problem in terms of any extra water coming down on the road? Because what happens is if there's a road, if there's water coming down the street, it goes into our driveway, and then our driveway slopes down, so it would go into our garage.
So none of that would change.
That wouldn't change.
No. What's happening in the roadway is independent of what's happening on the property here.
Okay,
So, but mathematically and engineering wise, there's a net reduction from this property contributing to the area. So, basically, what would have been leaving the site is no longer leaving the site. So there's no more contribution into the river that's going towards your property.
Okay, so
But you're
that's
not
good
gonna
to know.
see that necessarily because mathematically, it might be 1/1000th of an inch, which
Okay,
you
so-
won't see,
so
but.
that's reassuring. And the other question is,
Yeah.
Jake,
Yeah,
do you have any,
excuse me.
do
You
you
have
have
to,
any photos of the way the landscaping would be from the bottom of your property near our fence to,
I'll see what I have, I'll try
okay,
to share.
because I couldn't really make out from the picture where things
Absolutely.
were.
So this is the retaining wall that you had a question about. This will be far from the property. It's near the deck. See where here right now there is an existing the dead tree, the tree right there, and this is the retaining wall. It's gonna be, there's gonna be a planting along the retaining wall as well to.
So that looks really nice.
Yeah,
That looks
yeah, you know, we don't wanna see as well, you know, we're not doing all that and we wanna see the retaining wall.
Right.
So we're gonna put trees and so definitely. And this is what you will see, because I know exactly where you're talking about and your deck in the, near the kitchen. And I know, you know, and I say hi to you all the time I see you. So I know this will be what you're facing. This is what you will be facing.
Be a cement wall and I.
No. And it's not gonna be a wall down by your property. It's gonna be this retaining wall.
Right. That looks
And
lovely.
this
So
is the
now I see it.
pool, and with the fence and the screening, you're not gonna see all this, because there's gonna be the chain, the fence, and there's gonna be the privacy tree. So you're probably not gonna see the pool, but you'll see this area, the deck, and probably some of that.
Yeah, that looks very
Um,
nice.
And so this is the privacy trees along your property.
So how tall are those trees, that's in front of our fence,
So
we have what is it called,
you have the stockade fence right now, but we had agreed that we're gonna put a chain link fence all around the property.
right, but we're not gonna see that.
You're not gonna see, because it's gonna be inside, toward and then we're gonna plant trees. They're gonna be 6 to 8 feet when we plant them in the beginning, but they will grow fast. Couple of years, they'll probably,
These are arborvitae?
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we had the different species, but she suggested.
Well, we have to talk
different.
about that. Yeah, we have to figure that out.
But that we don't, you know, that was a landscape suggestion. We have no problem putting up arborvitaes. So that's.
So that all looks great. Now, the one concern I had.
Ma'am,
after you
ma'am, I'm sorry, would you mind? Yeah, please. Thank you.
Sorry. So the only concern I had was on the continuation of, you said there's going to be a chain link fence from the rest of our stockade?
It's gonna be within it. It's gonna be within the stockade.
That's not happening anymore. It's going to be a completely separate fence.
We're gonna put a fence in our yard that continue.
So it's going to be a stockade?
It's gonna be
A chain link.
in our.
Right, but what's going to be on, so we don't see the chain
We're
link?
not gonna see, because there's gonna be
Trees.
the privacy trees. They're gonna be in front of that, covering it.
What's gonna happen is your stockade fence that's there now
Yeah,
is
the-
gonna remain there.
Right.
On your neighbor's property, he's gonna put another fence
Right.
behind it, so you won't see it.
Right, but there's a continuation from the end of, like, where the door is to the pool area. So there's a continuation.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
You understand?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so,
basically, right now, between your stockade fence and the chain link fence that I'm gonna put, there's gonna be the privacy trees to all the way to the corner,
to the road.
where, to where you have the gate, you go into your backyard.
Yeah, from the gate, from our gate to the road.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to take a look at the plan, so
So
you
you're
have,
saying there's gonna be chain link, but what's gonna be in front of?
Privacy tree,
Trees.
so you don't
So
see
we
the
don't
chain
see
link.
the- Yeah,
No.
we don't wanna see the chain link.
No, you
Think-
won't.
gonna see
Think of
this.
a little, think of an aisle,
it's like a
the
sandwich.
stockade fence and the chain link fence, and down that aisle will be trees.
Okay, so as long as,
Yeah, so you from your side, you'll see the stockade fence, and when you get out of the gate you'll see privacy trees on your left.
right, but.
And you won't see the chain link.
Coming into our property.
Yeah.
And into the drive,
They'll see the.
into the driveway, that's what they're gonna see
They're
all
gonna
the
see
time.
trees.
And they're gonna see trees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay,
It looks great.
anyway, thank you for enlightening us on all of these.
And this is just for her as well, for you as well. This is this is just to, you had a question about how things look. This is your house right now, and this is the pool. This is looking from the deck
Oh, so
toward,
this is my house?
this is your house. So there will be privacy trees and
Right,
You all around.
so this is, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
you won't see that from your side.
Okay, so, thank you for that. That's what public hearings are for.
One other thing, David. She can't keep doing it. Since we look forward to the summer, as I'm sure you are, do you know, because once they start digging and doing everything, it's going to be very noisy and very, and I was wondering in terms of timing, what you see as the,
So I'm not, I'm not sure there's still a process, I think we still have to go through building
Yeah.
permit and,
Yeah,
so,
there's still, yeah, we still have to get this approved.
yeah. And then after that, we don't know what's the availability, so it's gonna be, we
You
don't
got a
know
couple of
exactly.
months
Couple of months.
of work ahead of you here.
after the summer, after August?
Can't guarantee you.
Yeah, and the, the village, there'll be a construction management plan as to how they're gonna phase it in, which will be, reviewed by the superintendent of public works and the building inspector, just to make sure that there's no
Talking to
construction. There's no construction in the middle of the night. It's all gonna be regulated. Okay. But, okay, I think there are some items that probably should be worked out between now and next month. And we'll finish this application, get it approved next month. Work with, Sarah and Mike as far as completing the landscaping plan, whatever trees are gonna be switched out. Conform the plans with our discussion here with the chain link fence and where the plantings are gonna be. Anything else that the applicant should be concerned about?
I would say talk to the building inspector about the fence issue, just to put that to bed, all right? About dual fence, one fence, or sharing fence.
Right, right.
Okay.
No.
No, just that tree. You probably see it now, from your house, it's all dead, it's been dead for a couple of years.
Okay, all right. All right, well, so we'll see you guys next month then, and we'll complete this. Any,
We just continue it open, right?
right, we'll just continue the public hearing.
And you just need a date and time.
Yeah. So it'll be next month.
So July 13th
Correct,
at 6:30 p.m.
Correct.
Or as soon thereafter.
yep, got it. Okay. Thank you, guys. Okay, 47 Hawthorne Avenue.
Another one that's gonna be beautiful when it's done.
Yeah, let's do that right now. What we're gonna do is we're gonna open up I know the plans have been revised. We're gonna open up a public hearing so that we don't have to do that next month.
Thank you.
So can I have a motion and a second to open a public hearing?
Second.
Mr. Mendelson,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Michonne,
Yes.
Chairman Goodman.
Yes. Okay, sir. Tell us how you've revised the plans.
Good evening, Chairman Goodman and members of the board. Thank you for having us back. So we are back here this month with plan revisions. And just want to mention up front that my engineer, Chris Utchig, unfortunately is unable to join us this evening. But that's okay. I know that he has been in regular contact with Michael. And frankly, from an engineering perspective, there are really no significant changes from an engineering perspective, which is good. So what I'd like to do is just summarize at a high level what has changed since last month and make sure that we cover those pieces. So with that, the first item, and I'm not sure if you can see this, but hopefully
well.
you probably already read it. But I'm happy to point anything out in case it's not clear. So the first item is referencing back to last time's discussion, and I really appreciate the board's input. And in fact, Ms. Schoen, that was your your point to me was, I thought I saw a pool, are you sure it's not in there? And thank you for questioning me, because as I mentioned last month, I looked at the patio and said it's probably much bigger than I need, and I would like a pool. And because of your encouragement over the last few weeks with my design professionals, Abigail Adams, landscape architect, Justin Maneri, my architect, and with Chris Utchig, the engineer, we worked very hard to get that in. And so we did get the pool in there. It's a small pool. And we also put in a small spa next to it. And we also did rework a bunch of things. We removed the fire pit that was there, and that was done to balance the impervious coverage to make sure that we fit in with the zoning requirements. So that's been done. And in addition, I know there was, with a previous application, a very detailed discussion on the fencing. We spent quite a bit of time working on the fence plan. It is a pool compliant fence, and just to spend a couple minutes on that so that I maybe address proactively any of your questions. What I'm proposing doing is going across the, let me try to do it this way. Front of the property will be an ornamental aluminum fence, which will be pool compliant. It's a very nice black aluminum fence. And we have some trees in front of that, which will connect along the side, going down the sideline and the back of the property, and the rest will be chain link, black vinyl covered chain link that will vanish with all of the landscaping that's in there. And so that plan is to enclose the entire property essentially in the pool area with pool compliant fencing and gating. And I'm just going to kind of run through the other two changes quickly, and then, of course, feel free to stop me if you have any questions. So that's kind of the pool added to the plan. The next item, which was in listening to the board's feedback, thank you again, is that there were concerns about the shed, the accessory building, being visible from the front of the property. We've listened to that feedback and reimagined it. It is no longer a shed, and it is no longer in the front of the property. So what we've done with that is to repurpose it into a pool cabana with storage and move it to the rear of the property. So it is no longer visible from the front, and it's integrated into the rear section where the pool deck is.
Would you be able to show us, yeah, I know it's a small diagram, but where's the cabana now? Or where's the, there we go.
Nice if I got it right side up. Thank you, Abigail. Okay. Yeah, so, previously it was in this section,
Okay.
within the setbacks, of course, but it is now moved to the rear of the property. It is centered on the pool, and it also serves as a nice buffer to the rear property. It will completely screen any activity in the pool. And as we mentioned last time, I'll just recap on it. It is not a typical shed. It is going to be designed and constructed with the same materials as the house. So it will be finished in hardy planking, board and batten, and it will have the same finish, the same quality of materials as the house. So that will fit in very nicely back there and serve multiple purposes. Does that answer your question,
Yep.
sir?
Yeah. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, the foliage, the green that is on the Ridge Street portion of the property, is that all going to stay? Is that going to be replaced? How is that going to be
Yes.
handled?
Yes, excellent question. It will all stay. It will all be preserved with one exception. There is a very large, very mature, I believe it's 40-inch tree, DBH, that is in very bad condition. In fact, it is a hazard. It has a huge hole in the middle of it, And to me, in my assessment, I'm not an arborist, I'm an engineer. I looked at it and I said, Michael, I want to clean up the property. This needs to come down. It's not in my way, but when I'm going to do and develop and spend quite a big investment on landscaping, I want to remove anything that is questionable, that is leaning, that's unhealthy. That's the only tree that I believe is coming out of that rear section.
Yeah, where is that located? Oh, right there. Okay.
No, I'm sorry, this is it. This is it, right? Actually,
That's a different one.
why don't I go back to the
Back one.
tree removal plan, that would make it easier.
Here's an 18, here's the 40 inch.
Here's a 40-inch. So that's in the scenic road overlay district.
Right.
In fact, on this, we have added the SROD buffer line. This is a 35-foot preservation buffer. And so the goal is to not touch anything in this area other than that tree that's really a hazard. And in fact, we're going to enhance this area with additional landscaping.
Right.
So that,
Sarah, what, if they remove that tree, what do the regulations provide? They need to put in a replacement tree somewhere?
3.
Yeah,
Three.
it requires 3
That's a
trees,
big
which
hitter.
they are doing.
That's
They're
a big
putting,
hitter, unfortunately.
Yeah. Where are they going to be located?
So, we are adding back 20 trees in total. If you look at the spreadsheet for everything that is regulated.
Sorry.
Yes,
Here you go.
I'll come back here.
Okay.
So we are actually replacing a total of 20 trees. And those 20 trees, I think I have this memorized by now. So, one of them is in the village right-of-way, so that will be replaced within the village right-of-way. The others are within the property, so will be placed back on the property. This is the one in the village right-of-way. These are new trees. These are new trees. These are new trees. There's some scattered within here. We have quite a few in the SROD. We have at least one here. And I did actually, we've spent a lot of time going through to make sure that they are very beautiful, native, and comply. 20 trees in total. And what this will do is be a very nice cleanup of a very nice piece of property that unfortunately has been neglected for many years. Most of the older trees that are mature are in bad shape. Dropped a lot of branches during the winter, leaning, diseased, etc. So my goal is to clean that all up, even if they're not obstructing construction. I just would like to do this once and take care of it in the right way.
Okay. Sarah, do you have any further comments? Have you had a chance to review the revised plans? I think you probably have.
I have, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a chance to do it.
Yeah, what your
So
take?
I only had 2 comments remaining. Well, the 20 replacement trees, which they're providing for the board's information. Another question that I had at the May 11th meeting, it was mentioned that there was going to be a generator on site with a propane tank. So we've just asked for the location of the propane tank to be shown on the site plan. And then a detail of the proposed generator to also be provided on the plans, like the cut sheet, so we know the noise specifications, et cetera, so we can make sure that it's adequately screened. And then we were recommending a variable speed pump for the pool, because that has become the practice of the board.
Yeah.
Yes, can I
can you
respond to that?
Yeah, can you speak to those 2 issues?
Absolutely.
Where the tank is going to be?
Yep. Thank you for those comments. I did reply a few days ago. Not sure that you had a chance to see it, though. But some of those details were on the plan, and I'm not sure how they were. You just may have overlooked. Let's see.
I saw the location of the generator, but I wasn't sure about the propane tank.
Yep. So the generator is here. The propane tank is right here. Okay. back to the microphone. So because I'm very early in the design phase, and I'm going to spend a lot of time on this personally just because of my background, but I did already meet with pool contractors, and as a gentleman said prior to us, we're going to go with a IntelliFlow VSF variable speed and flow pump. So that is definitely going to be done. We will notate it on the plan. And in terms of the generator, I'm going to go with a Generac Guardian Series home standby generator. I've already reviewed the specs. They are well within the code allowance in terms of decibels. And what I don't have at this moment is, because I haven't gotten far enough to design the energy requirements and the power requirements for the home. We've got to get into that, but I could tell you that from within this series of Generac products, it is one of the most commonly used that meets the requirements for the sound ratings, as well as the runtime. It's not going to be run other than brief test cycles that are pre-programmed. And the goal is, if all goes well, to never have to use it. It's really just there for an emergency backup. Does that answer your questions on that?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that everything was labeled on the plan.
Yes, and we will go back and make sure that we have all of that information there. Thank you.
And where is the pool equipment going to be located?
Yes, so the pool equipment will be located
Right there, right in basically.
right behind the pool cabana.
Okay.
And we've looked at that closely. It is a distance, exceeding the code requirement. I think it's 14 feet from the line, and there will be quite a bit of screening behind it. We've worked out to have abrevieties, and in fact, we will make sure it's screened completely, other than an access area to be able to service it. So that's, any other questions with the pool?
No? Any other questions in general?
I just want to mention, in the code, there's a whole section related to permanent standby backup generators. And one of the requirements in residential districts is that, to the extent practicable, generators shall be co-located with other existing or proposed outdoor mechanical equipment, such as air conditioning units. And there's other provisions too, but they're not applicable here. So I just wanted to make mention that the generator has to be co-located with any.
Yes, thank you. I did see that. I reviewed it in detail. There is a concern with that. And frankly, the concern is that when and if the generator runs, whether it's through a test cycle or if it's because of a power outage situation, the manufacturer recommends a distance away from HVAC equipment. And the reason is that the exhaust generated from the generator running, you do not want to commingle generator exhaust with HVAC intake. And so in reviewing Generac's technical specs, quite frankly, that's not the right place to put it. And I'm very sensitive to the code, being the Pelham Manor chairman of the zoning board, and so I'm very well versed in this, and we proposed putting it on the other side so that there isn't a safety issue with exhaust being pulled into the house. And frankly, on this particular side, where we proposed the backup generator, that's where I expect the power to come into the house. And ideally, you do want to put these items close together if possible. So I understand that point that you're making, but I would appreciate consideration of that safety issue. But if there aren't alternatives, we're going to do.
I mean, is this guidance or is this mandatory?
The code does say, to the extent practicable,
Right.
that it shall be co-located. Ultimately, it's a determination by the building inspector, but what you could do is, if you agree with the applicant's justification for why it's separated,
Right.
you could include a provision in your resolution to indicate
Is
that you
our code,
find
or is
that
that a state code?
this is your code, village code.
My thought is that perhaps, given the fact that that more and more people are putting in generators, that maybe our code is not up to the technical requirements maybe that should be there. That maybe, in fact, we should look at whether that co-location is a safety hazard, now that it's come up.
It was last looked at in 2013,
Yeah.
so that was 10 years ago.
I mean, for purposes of this application, Jen, I think your point is well taken, and I think we'll probably, if everyone agrees, ultimately would be to add it to the resolution, a recommendation for the building inspector to consider that. I think the applicant's point, at least, I'm not an engineer, but, a layman's view is that it sort of makes sense. I don't want, the exhaust of a generator to be going into an HVAC unit. That seems to be, logical. But to Amy's point, I mean, I think that's something that may be worth flagging as a potential, code revision, just to update it in light of the current technology. So,
Where is the HVAC equipment being located?
So the HVAC equipment is being located here. That is, I know it's difficult to see, I apologize. It is on the side of the house, and what we've tried to do is put a large enough pad on the side to accommodate what I believe will be 3 or 4 zones, which will have heat pumps and HVAC equipment. So the problem is that there isn't a very large space there, and if I look at the distance requirements, the generator needs to be at least 18 inches from the building, and it's supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, 5 or 6 feet from HVAC equipment. We don't have the room to co-locate it, and this may be unique to, this is a challenging building envelope to fit in because it's a very unique shaped property, as I'm sure you have an appreciation for the history of what this has been through over the years to make it a buildable compliant lot. So it is a little bit of a challenge. I did kind of look at it from a number of perspectives. I don't know that there's a better place to put it. On that section, it's really very far away from the neighboring home. If we tried to put it somewhere else, then it's going to
Closer.
be closer, and I'm very, very sensitive to those kinds of issues with neighbors. I want to optimize, the comfort for everyone.
Mike, have you had any encountered this issue before yourself?
Well, this is not unique, but what's unique here is that heat pumps are being proposed, correct? For a heating system. Heat pumps do not have fresh air intakes. They're AC coils that pump in refrigerant into a house, so there's no air transfer here.
Let me just add to that, because I probably didn't do it justice. So the heat pumps for the heat, I believe I will have split list duct for AC. So,
And for heating,
I
splitless ducts.
I have to see how it works out. We're not that far along yet, but I think I'm going to have a mix of equipment. I'm trying to, and I should have stated this up front. I'm trying. It's the engineer in me. I'm trying as difficult as to get to. I'm not sure I'll get to a net zero footprint, but I'm trying to put very efficient equipment in here, and I'm looking at some very leading edge technologies. I will have radiant floor heating. One of the companies I spoke with suggested cooling through the floors, but there are issues with that. So I'm thinking I'm going to have some legacy systems with some state-of-the-art systems, trying to strike the right balance.
Okay. So in that case, you know, it's understood that to the extent practical. So, you know, as always, the concern is always noise for neighbors and storm events. So if there's a level 2 silencer package or something offered on the Guardian, it might not be on the Guardian, it's more the commercial line. Maybe opt for that if possible.
Sure.
Or maybe
Sure.
some landscape or maybe a hard material around it just to buffer the sound from any of the neighbors. Then, that's all.
Absolutely.
I think your effort is to keep it away from the neighbors.
Absolutely.
To the extent you can. But there, in other applications we've entertained with this, if there is equipment to mitigate further the any particular audible sound issues, it's probably recommended if it makes economic sense.
Absolutely. Happy to look at that. Thank you. Okay, so there is one other change, which I just want to spend a minute to highlight. And that change is relative to the position of the home. So as we talked about last time, I am building a much smaller home than what came through here for approval last January. And I've put it all on one level, given that I plan to retire here. Trying to think ahead. So we did not use the entire building envelope. There was room to do more, but basically this is all that I need. I'm not trying to max it out. And as we got into some of the other changes that we added, we discovered there's a way to improve this further. And specifically what we did is we pulled the entire house forward 14 and a half feet, closer to Hawthorne Avenue. And that brings actually several benefits. And so just to quickly highlight those benefits, one of them is that it actually pulls the entire pool area forward and further away from the rear neighbor. And I think that's a good thing. Additional space is always a good thing, even though they won't be able to see anything. That's more desirable. Another very important benefit is that sensitive to the SROD, as you know, North Ridge Street is the scenic road overlay district. By pulling the house 14 and a half feet forward, created a much larger buffer on North Ridge Street. And so I know that's always an important item to maintain as much preservation as possible. So now the house is much further back from North Ridge Street. And in fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's 57 feet, where 45 were required. So much enhanced buffer. And last but not least, I didn't want to stand out. The adjacent homes on Hawthorne are closer, and so this actually pulls me right in line with the adjacent homes. So there's uniform alignment with those adjacent homes. And so that's really the extent of the changes. I know we talked about it a lot, but again, from an engineering perspective, these are not significant engineering changes. And on the other hand, at the end of the day, this is 100% zoning compliant. I've spent a lot of time looking at that and tweaking things. So it's a very nice plan. I am absolutely thrilled with it, much happier than last month. Very exciting, and I want to thank the board because, frankly, without the encouragement, without the suggestions, I wouldn't be back with these revisions. And so that is much appreciated. Thank you for that. That's essentially it. I just, would like to give anyone that has the opportunity to ask any other questions.
Since we opened up a public hearing, if anyone has any comments about the application, this is a time to speak. Okay. Wait until next month, I guess.
So one other point, one ask for the board, and this is important to me. So just want to share that my goal, hopefully, is to move forward and there are still elements of the approval process to work through. But the goal would be to try to break ground before the winter and before we know it, because I understand exactly how the process works with going through the next steps, getting construction documents together, bidding out to contractors, making a thoughtful selection of a good contractor. It will take months just to do that from the point where the approval's done. And I know that, pretty much the full board has now seen this, even though some are not present tonight. Hopefully they've had an opportunity to look through the materials. And so my concern is that with summer vacations kind of right around the corner here, it gets more and more difficult to have quorums with boards, and oftentimes during the summer, at least it's been my experience, 27 years on boards, that a lot of the summer board meetings get canceled for various reasons. And my concern is that this has the real impact to delay my project by months. And so in light of that, I would be faced with much less desirable construction conditions if I get into the later months of the year and then the winter. And so I would like to ask and encourage the board respectfully to consider closing the public hearing tonight, and if possible to vote on it, to allow me to move forward. I think it's fairly straightforward, and I know this is going to be a big enhancement to the neighborhood. I've spoken with many of the neighbors already, even though I don't live there. I've been around, interacted with a bunch of folks. So that's my ask for you. And again, thank you very much. Appreciate your time, your consideration.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further discussion?
No, I don't
Applicants ask. It's generally our custom and practice, particularly if we get a revised plan, pretty close in proximity to the meeting, to give the professionals more time to go through it and to address whatever additional issues they have. As well as that there's still a public hearing. The revisions haven't been out in the public wheel for very long. We need to make sure that everyone who has an interest in this application has had a fair opportunity to review it and review the revisions. That said, our board, we may be on vacation in August because that's sort of our custom to take off August, but otherwise we do meet regularly. And we will have a full board next week. I know that a lot of work has been done on this application. I was unfortunately absent last week, but I heard everyone was very impressed with your presentation, and I think the revisions reflect a very good discussion you had last time. So I think we should be in the position of wrapping this up, next month and getting you on your way. And hopefully, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to start the public hearing rather than wait until now, because usually with the sketch plan conference, we would have the formal revisions reviewed and then we'd schedule a public hearing. So that would have delayed things longer. So now we could wrap everything up next month. We've already opened up the public hearing. I think this was a very good discussion. I think you addressed a lot of issues of concern to us. That's sort of unless anyone has a different view.
From my point of view, I understand how you feel about having the staff look it over. I don't have any further questions about it. It would not be a problem for me. But if they need more time, then that's the fact of it,
I will just put my 2 cents in the ring from stormwater management perspective. I'm fine. I think many of us have been in conversation all last week and this week on this project. They added one additional Caltech on my end due to the increases, so on stormwater, I'm fine.
Right, when did the revisions come in?
Oh, I don't know the date offhand, but I believe last week, the 2nd, I believe?
June 2nd.
June 2nd.
June 2nd is the dates.
All right.
June.
Well,
Sorry. My remaining comments that I have are, I think were addressed tonight at the meeting, and I think the notes can be added to the plan. I don't have any concerns.
okay, all right.
Are there any members, are there any members of the public here?
Yeah, I already asked that question. Well.
Yeah, the only thing that we have outstanding here is the generator and co-locating it, or can we work it out with some additional landscaping or something around it and buffer it? I mean, that's the only one item, but I think we could resolve that amongst ourselves with staff.
Look at if staff is willing to address the issue and the board.
I will
Well, I mean-
absolutely address the issue. And Michael, you have my word. You've been wonderful and very helpful. And as I said, you guys have actually helped me with this design. So I will do whatever I need to do to fix it. That's, that to me is a very minute issue. And again, if it's not a safety concern, I'm happy to co-locate it, but I would not be doing any of us justice if I didn't point out to you what I've interpreted. And I think that, we can work through that very easily.
Right. It doesn't sound to me, Jen and Rob, that there would be a lot of conditions to this. That's sort of my concern, except for the generator co-location. It seems like everything else has sort of been addressed.
Sure. So there were only a few conditions, a new one being the generator discussion. One condition is that the steep slope work permit would be valid for 1 year from the date of the resolution.
That's
standard.
That's
Run of the mill.
standard.
Um,
I mean, let's put it this way.
Nothing outlandish aside from
I'm
the
only one
generator.
among equals, so my opinions don't really mean anything at the end
Sure
of the
they
day.
do.
It sounds to me like everyone is in accord that this is an approvable application. And my fellow board members feel the same way. So who am I to stand in the way of progress?
Thank you.
We did open up a public hearing and gave people an opportunity to speak to the application. And so, all right, then let's just go forward. Put a nice house in the middle of Horai Brook.
I
So-
promise I will do that. I will live up to that. Thank you.
So the board would have to close the public hearing. I can't promise that he'll break ground before I read through the resolution, but that would be
Well,
I promise you
it'll be,
that.
the main thing is to make it up to him, and not up to us, I guess. All right, can I have a motion to second to close the public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Mendelson?
Yes.
Mr. Richmond?
Yes.
Ms. Schoen?
Yes.
Chairman Goodman?
Yes. And can we have a summary of the?
Sure. A resolution granting amended site plan and steep slope work permit approvals for a property located at 47 Hawthorne Avenue. Whereas property owner Gregory Verone has submitted applications for approval thereof at 47 Hawthorne Avenue in the R15 zoning district and Scenic Road Overlay zoning district. Whereas the planning board is the approval authority for both. Whereas the planning board reviewed plans and application materials which are included in the written resolution and will be made part of the record. Whereas the proposed action is a type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, thereby requiring no further environmental review. Whereas the village planning consultant, village staff, and planning board reviewed the information, submitted comments regarding same, and whereas on June 8th, 2023, the planning board opened the public hearing, which was duly noticed, advertised, at which time all persons interested were given the opportunity to be heard, and that application and public hearing was closed on June 8th. Now therefore be it resolved that for the reasons stated herein, the Village of Rybrook Planning Board hereby approves the site plans listed herein, subject to the following conditions. One, the steep slope work permit shall be valid for a period of a year from the date of this resolution. The applicant shall submit a construction management plan to the satisfaction of village professionals. The applicant should revise the plans to note the variable speed pump for the proposed pool, and the generator should be co-located, to the extent practicable. And at this point, the board has determined that this is as practicable as it can get. I think that's the best summary I can give.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome to, when you circulate the resolution, we can work on the language, which would be fine. But but you got it. That's essentially it. This is reasonably practicable. All right. Okay. Are there any modifications or any issues to be had with this resolution? If not, can I have a motion, a second, to adopt it?
Moved.
Second.
So for approval, Mr. Mendelson,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Ms. Schoen,
Yes,
Chairman Goodman.
Yes.
Thank you.
much luck.
Thank you very much. I very much appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to moving into Rybrook.
It'll be interesting to see what develops there, really will.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay. Let me see, do you have, what's our last agenda item?
52 Bonwit. 52 Bonwit.
Okay. Okay, 52 Bonwit Road. This is also scheduled for a public hearing. So can I have a motion, a second, to open the public hearing?
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Mendelson,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Ms. Schoen,
Yes.
Chairman Goodman.
Yes. Okay, sir, whenever you're ready.
Is the screen on? No, just one part. I just want to be able to show something.
Which connector you got? It's been acting weird lately. There you go. If you go horizontal, it's gonna go wider. There you go.
Okay.
Sorry, excuse me.
All right.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Greg Cacciapoli, engineer on 52 Bonwit Road. Last month, we were here discussing this project, and here we are again with some minimal changes. The purpose of the project is to perform some rear yard improvements to enhance it and create some usable space for the homeowner's children to play. It's currently, last time we were in front of the board, there were some concerns, I believe mostly associated with the stormwater runoff and how this regrading would affect the property to the rear of us. Following notifications, we did, the neighbor behind at the rear property line did reach out to me directly and ask questions about the project. And as a result, we did agree to add some additional plantings on the rear property line. So it's not reflected on this PDF, but it is on this hard copy because it was a late change that was made since we had a discussion recently.
Okay.
In addition, I did run some calculations just to show that there is in fact a reduction in runoff. So, sorry, it's not on this. There it is. So basically, I created, using HydroCAD, I modeled it hydraulically and did it for a 25-year storm, 50-year storm, and a 100-year storm. And I'll just show you one or two. I'll show you two of the results, and then you'll understand the point. But pre-development runoff to the rear property line, as is right now, is 1.48 cubic feet per second in a 25-year rainfall. And post-construction, it will be 1.40. It's about a 5% reduction from the property itself. But I did want to come here showing you that it is actually a reduction. And it's 5.4% to be exact, and that carries across every storm. So whether it's a 50-year storm, 100-year storm, 25-year storm. So this is a 50-year rainfall, which is 7.76 inches of rain within a 24-hour period. Pre-development, you would get approximately 1.83 cubic feet per second to the rear property line, and post you get 1.73. Again, a 5.4% reduction. So I just wanted to be able to show you those numbers, and that we actually ran the numbers so that you could see that it is in fact a reduction. Other than that, I believe actually we did have some comments from Sarah regarding the plants. There was two types of plantings that were not native, and
Right.
I
They were
did make that
invasive, yeah.
change. It's on the hard copy again, and I believe that was it. That was the main
Do you
the
know what,
remaining comments.
did you, Sarah, did you discuss what plants are going to be used, substituted in for the plants proposed?
I didn't. I had just asked that they be switched out for native. So, which two did you put in?
Right, we actually do have a landscape architect on the project
Okay,
that
perfect.
helped with the design, so I'm gonna let him speak on the plants.
Hi, my name's David Delardi, owner of Nature View Design Group. I'm a licensed, New York State licensed landscape architect. So yeah, there was a question about some of the ground cover that we were putting in. It was some myrtle, and apparently that's more invasive. So we decided to go with Solomon seed. It's a native plant. It's a native plant species. It has good runners, and it's good for soil retention, especially we had it located on part of the slope of the property, where there's a lot of drainage going through. So we use that as a supplement, and then the other one was we put in little blue stem as opposed to Hackanachoa. Hackanachoa they're both grasses, but Hackanachoa it's not a native, so we just we did a native called little blue stem. Attractive, they get about that high. They're nice.
So is that acceptable?
Yeah, I'm
Sarah?
okay with those substitutions.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we just put a native arborvitae on the property line, American Niagara arborvitaes, which would help buffer the neighbor and satisfy his concern.
Okay, super. Sarah, any other issues? The issues been addressed?
No, the native species was my only remaining comment.
Okay. And Michael, as far as stormwater is concerned, you have any remaining concerns about their plan?
I do not. In fact, his calculations took a little more conservative approach because he took a higher coefficient of runoff than what would normally be on a lawn area in the back. So lawn has a little more absorption, so he took a more conservative approach in the numbers because your C of N is 86,
Right,
not a
which is
74.
for 1/3 acre development.
Correct. So
I didn't use grass, I used a 1/3 acre.
exactly. So he took a little more of a conservative approach in that, but it's a net reduction. So, and with the landscaping there, it'll slow it down as well. Are you berming up those arborvitaes a little bit?
Hadn't planned on it,
No.
but we can.
No, I'm just asking because even if you did a little berm to hump them, because I know people like to berm them up a little bit to get their feet out of the water table, then that'll also help to slow down and hold back a little bit of water from the neighbor as well.
Does the board have any questions? Okay, and since there's a public out there, does anyone in the public want to speak to the application?
Homeowner.
Oh, well, that's safe.
I was just going to introduce myself. I am the homeowner. My name is Vimla, and as Greg and David mentioned, we're just looking to enhance our backyard for our young children. So thank you.
All right. Well, okay, so I think unless there are any other issues raised, we can close the public hearing. Second, a motion, second for that.
Second.
Mr. Mendelson?
Yes.
Mr. Richmond?
Yes.
Ms. Schoen?
Yep.
Chairman Goodman?
Yes. And if we have a resolution, I guess as a condition, since it's not on the plans, you can switch out the substitutions that Sarah and the applicant were talking about. You may want to just note them.
I think there's a condition
Sure.
in there about replacing the species.
Okay.
When the plans are submitted.
All right.
this year.
Oh, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. Okay. That's-
All right. Good?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah,
Granting
I-
site plan and steep slope work permit approvals for property located at 52 Bonwood Avenue. Whereas the following site plan and steep slope work permit for proposed wood railing, boulder lining wall, bluestone slab steps, and regrading of property at 52 Bonwood in the R12 zoning district. Whereas the planning board reviewed the following plans and application materials contained in the written resolution. Whereas the proposed action is type 2 under SECRA. Now therefore be it resolved that for the reasons stated herein, the Village of Rybrook Planning Board hereby approves the site plans listed herein, subject to the following conditions. 1, the steep slope work permit shall be valid for a period of 1 year from the date of this resolution. 2, the applicant shall submit a construction management plan to the satisfaction of village professionals. 3, the applicant shall delineate areas of steep slopes disturbance on the site plans. And 4, proposed plantings should be native, non-invasive, and subject to the approval of village professionals.
Okay. Unless there are any proposed modifications to the resolution, can I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution of approval?
Second.
Mr. Mendelson?
Yes.
Mr. Richmond?
Yes.
Ms. Schoen?
Yes.
Chairman Goodman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Good luck.
Thank you.
Oh, well done. So, board, any other issues of concern?
No.
No? Ah.
No, not at all.
Okay. All right, well then I guess we can adjourn. A motion
Yeah,
is
is
second to
this it,
adjourn?
Jen?
Yeah, well, for now.
For now.
So, yeah,
What does that
meet
mean?
me again. I'm not going anywhere.
Till we meet again, right.
Yeah, I'm not going
Well,
anywhere.
another farewell, Jennifer.
I'm always hovering in the background.
Hey, Rob, thank you.
Another farewell.
Summarizing those things can get
Right.
hairy.
That last one was
And now you're taking us on by yourself next week, next month. What?
Yeah.
You're good.
Oh, I'm
No,
sure.
no, no, it's good.
She makes me nervous, so I'm relatively quiet.